All right, testing 1 2. All right, testing 1 2. All right, here we go. We're gonna go ahead and get started here. We're gonna be applying some decals to Fenix. These decals were made by Curb Stomp City. We worked closely together to get Fenix decals made since there wasn't any before. So a couple of the things that I usually always use when I'm applying decals are a pair of scissors and a brush. Let me grab my brush over here. Just an old brush that's kind of soft. And this is to move them into place and help apply some pressure if I need to. The other things that I use are microsol and microset, which really help, at least I think, apply the decal a lot better to the plastic. These ones I got at just some hobby store over here. Microset you apply before, microsol you apply after. I wouldn't suggest using these on your first decal application, as they really work. So if you're applying it, there's not a lot of room for error. You know, you have to know pretty well where you're intending to apply the decal to. Alright, so, and lastly I need tweezers. I have these tweezers here that have helped me. They really help to dip the decals, and that's really all I need them for. But yeah, let's get started. So the first thing that's important, I think, for these decals is to cut pretty closely around whatever decal you're using or going to use first. So I'll go ahead and do the left arm first. Sorry if I'm not too talkative during this. This is kind of a trial run, I think, more than anything. I'm just seeing how this thing works, and if it's possible to do some live tutorials going forward. I think going forward too, once I give everyone a heads up, well, like I did not today, I'll have some questions, so I'll be a little more interactive too. Alright, so I've cut it pretty close here. Now, there's one more thing that I do sometimes on a big piece like this. I like to apply my big pieces all at once, so that way I can cut the joints later, the articulation. So I like to grab my X-Acto and I like to score it somewhere along the line, just subtly, in about 2 places. Here I did it just so that when I apply it, and then if there's any water trapped underneath, I can have some exit points in the middle of the decal to allow that pressure to get out, so that way it sits a little more flush. So the next thing is to submerge it in water. I count down from about 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, and the other thing that I have here is water, which I forgot to explain, but you guys need that. And about right there. Now I let it rest a little bit on this paper towel, dry paper towel. It'll get wet during the course of this, but whatever. So I got this little brush, and now I'm going to do the micro set, which is my pre-application formula. This is for the left arm. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on here. Let's see here. Let me check my reference pictures first. I want to make sure it's both talking about the right, left when I'm working on these here. Yep. Good. So it's been long enough. This is applied. This is pretty wet here. This won't stay wet very long. So then what I do here is just slide the decal off and lay it in place. Another thing I do is make sure my arm is straight, which it wasn't there. Let's see. Here we go. Just checking out my reference. It just fell on the floor. So it's at this point I usually dip my brush in water and go over the top of it just to kind of act like a little squeegee. Get it all in there. There's some edges that won't be flat right away. That's okay though. And I can't remember off the top of my head how I applied my first one of these. I may want to move this decal down here just because it's at that articulation point. So I should have cut that apart. Sorry guys. Sorry if I go off screen here a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put this guy down here. I don't recommend doing that very often, as you shouldn't probably try to be cutting the decal once it's about to be applied, as it's pretty thin. Let's see here. Alright, so then I just kind of damp my brush, or not dampen it, dry it, and use it to grab off any extra water here. You see I went over the joint, it's still attached. There's some edges here that aren't so flush, but that's okay. That microsol will help get rid of that here in a little bit. Alright, let's see if the rest of this can go smoother. I will do my, alright, I'm going to cut these in half so it's a little easier for me to remember. I'm going to apply this left inside arm piece. So I cut pretty closely again. That's why you want a good pair of scissors. You don't want to be separating the backing paper from the film. If you have a shitty pair of scissors, it kind of does that. Alright. So I have this guy. I probably won't score him. He should be pretty small so I can get all of the moisture out. Put in there for 10 seconds. Okay, while I'm allowing that one to dry a little bit, I will cut this rib piece out. The other rib piece is his right rib, so this will be his left. Alright, now I will apply my micro set. It's going to be right here. When I'm applying it, I'm kind of taking into mind that I'm going to be painting some wristbands on him and tape. So if you see me go a little higher up than you'd think, then that's why. I don't want to waste the design by covering it with tape. And these decals might not always be 100% accurate or to scale, but that's why I like to take creative liberty and apply them where I think that's going to be best looking at. And I think you end up with a better looking figure that way. Alright, so I leave about 1/4 inch underneath there, just so that sorry, I went off camera there for a second. I'll try not to do that going forward. Be a little more cognizant of it. So I use this brush as a squeegee of sorts to work the bubbles out to the sides of the decals. And that's looking pretty good there for his right arm. I think it's tough because Fenix has got a lot of tattoos over here, but this we'll get to all of them. Alright, so we got his left rib piece here. You want to make sure you know which way is upwards. Just when you apply it, you don't want to apply it upside down. Alright. Helps me too when I'm working on a couple figures. I'll do this one here first, and then I'll do that one, and it'll help me kind of correct any mistakes that I have, and I mean, I get better faster because of it. Before I got back into customizing, I never used decals. I was one of those guys that thought hand painting all your tattoos was the better way to do it, and I did that for a long time. I got a lot of tattoos. That was when, probably in 03, when I first started customizing as a kid. Now I'm an adult, 27, and having got into like 6-scale figures and statues, I know that there's no honor in hand painting your own tattoos if they don't look as good with decals. And one of the things that I've learned from the Hollywood guys that paint and sculpt, is that the only thing that matters is the end product. Fortunately, I think fortunately, since it makes it a lot easier, decals provide a much better looking end product, and it provides consistency. For me, I make always one figure for myself and a couple to sell, at least 2, so I'm applying a lot of decals, and I want all my figures to look just as quality for all of them. If I'm making one figure, then I probably wouldn't use a decal unless it's got a lot of tattoos. But yeah, so I'll once again, I'll leave him the decal in one piece over the seam. I'll cut that later, but yeah, right now it's good. And I'll let it dry and kind of adhere to the plastic first. You can still see here a little bit the decal is gapping a little bit over the shoulder articulation. That'll be fine. We'll cut that here in a little bit after a couple more layers, and you'll see what I mean. Let's see here. So we got let's go over to the right arm a little bit. Let's take to the left. We'll do the left chest piece here, which I'm really excited when Srick over at Cripstomp City was able to make these decals for me, since Fenix is one of my favorite luchadors, and I knew that his pieces were going to be very difficult to pull off. And yeah, a lot of people can do the tattoos by hand, and I sure as hell can as well. It's for me, it's a quality thing. I don't like, there's nothing you can do. You can't paint that fine of detail at this scale and have it look anything like a computer, and so that's why I preferred the decals. Here, this is another thing here. It's always tough depending on what torso you're going to apply it on. Some of the more muscular torsos have more curves, and so I would score my decal if that was the case. Here it's pretty flat, and this is a really nice torso for Fenix, so I won't. I expect it to bend over here a little bit underneath this bridge of the pectoral, underneath the pec, but I don't think it'll be too bad. So I'm going to keep it in one piece here as I put it underwater. I'll let that dry a little bit. You don't want it to dry too much, but it's better that it's not soaking wet because it's a lot harder to work with when it's soaking. So again, I'll put some micro set here. I like to have a little bit of puddles if I can. I don't know if the light will catch this or if the camera will. But when I have a little bit of puddles, I feel like it helps to allow the decal to kind of sit into place, and I can move it a little better, because with these two products you can't really move it as good as if you load it up with water. But it also helps create a suction once I use my brush to get out the rest of the water underneath, and it really just sucks the decal to the plastic. Or so I think, so I want to keep it that way. And if you've put it underwater good enough, your decal should slide off no problem. And let's see here. I should really be looking at a reference picture. Give me a second. Alright, so this should sit a little lower on the pectoral. There we go, I think that looks good. Alright. Put that up here on my desk just in case. Sweet. Alright, see, so you'll see here, you'll get these little, where the decal bends, the edges alongside the decal. I don't know if you can see this on the camera or not. I got a leg on this Twitch thing, so I'm gonna hold it up here for a second while I can look at it. And move forward from here. You can't really see it. But nonetheless, it's one of those things to where it's very small, and as long as I keep going over it with the brush, not lifting it, I always go from the center outwards. It should dry pretty well, and then I'll go with microsol, and it should really suck it back down to the plastic. So the next piece is the left back shoulder. I'm kind of known for doing my Lucha Underground customs, so it's kind of cool that both Pentagon and Fenix have matching tattoos like me and my brother do. But this Pero Stelmal logo is pretty sweet, and I think Strike did an awesome job at capturing the red. Right here, I try to go as close to the image as I can, but not too close, because I kind of, if there are any edges, I want them to not be where most people would suspect, because then it's harder to see. Put these under for 10 seconds, roughly. I mean, the water isn't warm, it's not cold, it's about lukewarm, but I mean, I would err on the side of colder water, since I think warm water probably disintegrates a little bit of the surface. Alright, so he's looking really good here. I'm going to apply some micro set. His tattoo is right here. His next tattoo is going to be right here. There's not really a set time that I allow it to dry on the paper. I guess I look for how wet it looks on the surface of the decal before I start grabbing it again. The more water you apply to the skin beforehand, as a precursor before you apply the decal, the easier it is to move around. The longer it will take to dry, which in a lot of instances is actually a good thing, because you want to be able to move it and adjust it like I just did right there. And when you apply some more force with your brush, it really helps with the sucking of the decal towards the torso. There we go. And again, this brush is pretty soft, so it's not going to push the decal or rip it or anything, since it's really fine. So that looks pretty good, I think. I'm not sure if I want it any higher or lower. I'm going to go ahead and check my reference real quick here. I got my iPad over here so I can double check myself. So give me a second. I got a ton of pictures here on my iPad. I'm not finding any back reference for Fenix. Well, I know what I can check. I can check the first figure I did. Okay, yeah, it's been the same place. Alright, so I will apply this centered top back now. Just so that when I'm holding on to a figure to apply, it's a lot easier when you can, if you're applying them all in one session. I normally don't. I will in terms of certain circumstances. You can end this video, but typically I apply my decals in a couple different settings so that way they have time to adhere and I can handle the figure a lot better moving him around. Smaller decals need to be underwater less time. Bigger decals a little longer. That's just a little tip. I mean, it doesn't really make too much of a difference. The point where the decal really begins to get workable is when you're letting it rest, and it's during that time where it's kind of becoming water slidable, I guess. So these little ones here are pretty touchy since they want to stick to your finger, but I was able to do it there. Move it down a little bit, and this is where having some extra water on the figure before you lay it down really helps. Hope you guys can see that. But see, this is where you want to just dab it when you got that much extra water. You want to dab it until you get a lot of the water out underneath first, and then you kind of want to just leave it while it's in place. What the brush is nice for, though, is moving it in instances where you need to move it a little bit, but I think that looks pretty good. This Pro Stelmall one is pretty close to his, so actually I'm going to lower it a little bit. Now, in this instance, I don't have to, and it looks really good there, but I'm kind of a perfectionist, so I like to lower them if they have to. So I'm going to put this a little lower just to give a little more space to the decal above. And that's just a stylistic option. I mean, Mattel never gets these figures right anyway, so all we can do is try to get better. And really, I mean, I can't emphasize it enough, I think, as far as when I'm customizing now. When I was younger, I would always rush, and now it's really, I take my time, and all that matters to me is the end result. If the figure looks good, that's what I'm going for. I don't really care about how super accurate it is to the extent that it cripples me. There's no honor in that. To me, that's stubbornness. So I'm going to go ahead and apply the right chest pec here. So again, I mean, Rick did an awesome job on these decals. Does an awesome job on all of them. I also sculpt too in what free time I have left, and I'm working on a Conor McGregor, and I actually ditched my hand painting option since I'm doing about 5 of them, and had Rick help make me a custom set with my design. and his decals really fit the best. You can try it at home all you want, but as far as I was concerned, I couldn't match the level of quality and the cleanliness as his do. So shout out to him. Use microset. We're actually almost already done, so this shows you how much faster it is than hand painting. Fenix's tattoo is right there. I'm gonna let that dry a little bit while I cut out this star. Yep, maybe a little too close there. It's all good. Alright, I'm actually going to dip this one too, since it won't take me long to apply the 33. Alright, so this one should be ready to apply now. I scoot it over, boom. Take my brush, I slide it in place first. It's actually right in place right there. So take my brush, slide out the water underneath it. Rub this brush on my pants if I need it to get really dry. And it'll move around less and less as the area underneath becomes more dry and the decal becomes dry. Almost to the point to where these are more durable than your paint and sealer. It's a little more in his pack. There we go. That looks good. Yeah, I mean, they look awesome. I'm super impressed. And then this figure, or this star tattoo, goes right down here. Because it peeks out from his tights. See, now I'm being very careful not to grab the figure by any of the decals because they're still drying. It's important to not do that because you'll have to, you might, at best, you'll just move them. At worst, you'll rip them. And even if they're ripped, you can still push them back together. But it still sucks. It's not fun. So I'm looking at my reference here as far as how far away this tattoo is. And I think that looks pretty good. Gotta be a little, there we go. So I didn't apply, it looks like I didn't apply enough microset on this back side because I hadn't anticipated it going back that far. So I'll just dip my brush in it and I just gently put some microset back there. And look how easy that falls down. I guess you can't see that on the camera, hopefully you can. But it fell down effortlessly. And so here I'm going to actually keep this decal off like this because I'll cut it later. But actually, you know what, I'll lay it down here. I'll lay it down a little bit just to let it dry too. So I can always cut later down. I just don't want it hanging. You can always apply more pressure with your brush and it just looks great. Look at that. I want one. This is actually mine, so it's a lot harder to put elbow pads on every figure since they don't come with every figure. I'll put an elbow pad on this other Fenix too, just one, because he technically usually only wrestles with one, but I want him to match my pentagon a little better. Alright, this tattoo, it's actually pretty nice. They're always, like, if they're big enough to where they'll go past this, which I should have done over here, I'll cut them, separate them. I failed here, so don't do that if you're playing it on this figure. For the left shoulder, I always like to make sure my shoulders are lined up in a resting pose. And I will apply it, I won't cut it because it'll go about half and half, and that's perfect because you want there to be enough surface area for it to kind of dry steadily on the bicep, so that way when you cut it, you're not going to take off the whole decal. Alright, here we go. You got one more left. That's fast. So I'll put some micro set. Just get it nice and wet around the area here. There we go. See, so when you go from the middle outwards, it helps to really make the decal more flush too, because you don't want to be pushing a bubble on the inside. You know, you want to push the bubble out from the shortest point that it can get out to the air. And you'll see here, like around these complex curves and these contours, there'll always be a little bit of a decal sticking upwards. That's not a problem when you're using this microsol because it'll really help suck it in. And once the decal dries, I think that they even go away a little better. So, you know, just make sure the decal's on there first and foremost. This is just like everything else, it takes some steps. So, let's see here. That was his inside left arm. Alright. Just looking at my reference. And sometimes what I do with Pentagon too is the decals that are supplied on the sheet, I'll take them and reorganize them in different areas because sometimes they just look better. And I mean, each figure is different. You'll see how I score these a little bit here, and that's just so that they really wrap around without trying to be one big piece. They're a lot less mobile. I don't care if they overlap, so I'll cut them a little bit so that way the lettering will be really flat. But yeah, I mean, as for like Pentagons, like there's not enough decals to cover his full sleeve. Same with Ricochet, or Prince Puma. So one of the things I do is kind of separate them to have the most impact. And right here, Fenix sometimes doesn't have this arm showing, so sometimes I may grab this inside decal and put them right here on the outside. That is stylistic. It makes it look just as good. And I'll do the same with Pentagon. It's one of those things to where it really varies figure by figure. And I mean, these things are customs after all, so they're handmade. There we go. This one wanted to stick to my finger a little more. That's okay. I'm going to go ahead and push it up high enough so that way the last part of the text still clears the torso bend. There we go. Yeah, this is looking really nice here. I'll get really close. I'll see if the camera won't focus in. Maybe it won't. Alright. Alright, so now you've watched me apply all of Fenix's tattoos. Now this is the part where I use my microsol. So I kind of wipe off the rest of the solution of microset on my little brush here. And I'll go in the same order that I applied them. I usually apply it pretty liberally too. So that way it really has a chance to soak in and kind of bond the decal to the plastic. I've tried taking decals off after I've applied this and it's dried, and it's pretty much impossible. So for all the decal haters out there that think they're just temporary, you are wrong. Believe me. Or you're not putting them on right. These things will prevent paint rub better than the super glue trick, and I use them a lot of times like that in those bend areas on my Puma figures. So you can see here it looks wet. This dries pretty fast. I also use this as a second opportunity to really get out any bubbles if there are any. And there we go. Sorry I stopped mid-sentence there. I have my Echo on, and it's playing Rob Zombie, and Ramone's cover came on. And I never heard that before. That's pretty cool. Blitzkrieg Pop. Alexa, volume up. Oh, I guess I better move on to the next song. Oh well. There we go. Now for the shoulder pieces, I really kind of push my brush. This brush is a lot more sharper. It won't cut the decal, but it really will get in these little parts. I really cram it into this shoulder articulation point there because I want the decal to be sucked in as much as possible before I cut it. And this is just one of a couple layers of microsol that I'll do. Once this dries, I'll apply another one, and you can really apply it however long you want. 2 is really good. 2, I mean, look at this 33 decal already. It looks like it's been imprinted onto the plastic, so it won't take much. And once they dry, the more you'll see that the decal really sucks to the skin after each coat, so it goes a long way. Alright, so I'm going to let those dry. I'm going to end this live stream here. This is the first one. I'll probably share it to the group page, Wrestling Customs 101 on Facebook, and take some suggestions for the next one and probably get some interaction here for the next one, so that way I can have something to talk about other than just describing everything. I feel like a teacher. Alright, so I'll see you guys later. Make sure you follow me on Instagram. I'll probably put up my notices there. Alright, see you guys.